Alrighty, welcome to the 95th edition of Before the Battle, here live on YouTube. My name is Nick Baldwin. He's Jed Meshew of MMAfighting.com. Wesley Riddle, yet again, not here of MMAsucker.com. We wish him the best. He's a bit busy with his father right now. Jed, what is going on? It's been a couple weeks. How's it going?
Does he even count as a part of the show anymore at this point? Just every other time.
He's sort of, I guess we have to bump him down to like guest co-host now. He's sort of in that spot. He's not quite a guest, but he's not like a full-time host like us.
I like it, especially because I think since he missed so many, I think we can vacate his year full of results. And we're going to get to those because don't you worry, sir. Not only do I have our results from the last time we spoke 2 weeks ago for UFC 219, I also took the precious time out of my very busy schedule to tally up all our results.
Wow.
All year long. That's right. I have the results from the three of us battling head-to-head in all our categories for the whole year.
I can't believe you take the time to do that. I'm quite proud.
Some of us are committed to making this podcast work. Just some of us are trying, you know?
And it's not Wes.
It's not you either. It's really just me keeping this ship afloat.
Okay, so let's go back. A UFC 219, 2 weeks back, I believe. Yeah, so we've been off for 2 weeks. Chris Cyborg defended the women's featherweight title with a unanimous decision win over Holly, the preacher's daughter, Holm, former bantamweight champion, of course. Not super close. I mean, the scorecard sort of said they were close. Cyborg won the majority of the rounds, but it was closer than a lot of people expected. Still not as close as I expected. I picked Holm to win. I was, of course, wrong. Khabib Nurmagomedov dominated Edson Barboza in the co-main event, and we had a few other fun results. But overall, not the most memorable pay-per-view card. In a way, it was a proper way to end out 2017, which in itself was not a very good year for the UFC, despite what Dana would say. Let's go back to that card. What do you got for us for our results? Our picks, DraftKings, and bonuses, and, of course, underdog pick of the week.
Well, our results from that card were it was not a good week for any of us. Both Wesley and I came up as your victors that week with a sterling records of 5-4-1. Our misses were Roundtree, Condit, Diakese, and I missed Barboza. Wesley missed Cynthia Calvillo. I told you guys Carlos Esparza was going to get the upset. I'm a genius. You're all fools. Beyond that, though, our bonuses. Not a great showing on bonuses. Both you and Wes picked, Nick picked Cyborg Holly Holm as your fight of the evening. It did win fight of the night. I had Condit Magny, so I came short there. Performances. Your performance bonus winners were Tim Elliott and Khabib Nurmagomedov. None of us had any of that right. We had Roundtree, Glenn, Diakese, and Cyborg split amongst us in some capacity or another. And our underdog picks of the week. Nick, you had Holly Holm. That's a big 0. Wes had Amari Akhmedov. That's a big 0. I had Edson Barboza. That's a big 0. So not a sterling showing from us there. And then to round it out,
just real quick, I think we give Wes like half a point for Amari Akhmedov because he was underdog and got a draw, so he did better than expected. But
I guess, but that's not a win. We're here to count wins. If he was here to argue his case, maybe we could. But since he's not, it's a loss. He doesn't get the points.
And before you go to DraftKings real quick, I think you need to bring to the attention of our huge audience how I did in picks, because if I recall, it wasn't a very good night for me.
It was astonishingly bad.
I thought I went 2-7 and won.
You did not. You missed on so you got Tim Elliott.
Who I got. Yeah.
Oh, you did. I somehow marked Glenn as a win for you. I marked Jury and Glenn as victorious for both of us. So you, in fact, did go 2-7. Wow. Yeah, that was a super bad one. So I'll need to adjust accordingly. Some various things. Your only correct predictions were Tim Elliott and Khabib Nurmagomedov. So
when Khabib is one of my 2 right predictions, you know that was a bad night.
Yeah, it's a rough time for you. As far as our DraftKings status goes, Wesley Riddle, your winner 2 weeks ago with 379 points. The big earner on his squad was Khabib Nurmagomedov with 106.5 points. Nobody else really doing a ton. Chris Cyborg, a respectable 89 points. Miles Jury, 71.5 points. I came in second with 331 points. My big earner was Tim Elliott with 109 points. I also had Chris Cyborg doing the respectable 89 a lot of other kind of garbage there from me. And you, Nick, bringing up the rear, 197 points. You're one big earner, Habib Nurmagomedov. Everybody else you had was a loser, and as a result, did not get a lot of points. Carlos Condit, Mark Diakese, Rick Glenn, Holly Holman, Khalil Roundtree. Turns out, when you go 2-7 on your picks, your DraftKings team will suffer as a result. Now, Nikolai, I would like to do a bit of housekeeping for the year because, as you know, we're now in 2018. We've left 2017 behind. I joined our Steam show last year at the beginning of the year. Actually, maybe I even joined at the very end of 2016 for a show.
It doesn't count. That was when
I joined as a full-time member last year. So we have a year of picks under the belt for all three of us. With a year of all of this, and I took the time to tally it up. So let's go to those. Your picks champion over the course of the year. Wesley Riddle with 274 wins versus 156 losses. I came in second with 267 wins to 163 losses. Nick, you bring up the rear with 254. Sorry, I have to adjust that since I incorrectly gave you a win last week. 254 wins to 276 losses on an event-by-event basis. Wes Riddle is your winner. He won or co-won 22 events last year. I was second with 18. Nick, you were third with 17. Moving on to our DraftKings totals from the year. I am your DraftKings master for the year of 2017. Total points I put up collectively 13,384 points across all events. Wes Riddle came in second with 12,045 points. Nick, you are hot on his heels, though, 11,713.5 points across all events. As far as total wins, me and Wes both won 13 times in the DraftKings. Nick, you only won 10. And final thing, you know we like to keep it even around here. Wes is your picks champion. I'm your DraftKings champion. Nikolai, you are our bonus champion. Over the course of all events, you collectively correctly tallied 24 bonuses. You correctly predicted 10 fight of the nights, 12 performance of the nights, and 2 underdog pick of the weeks. Wes came in second with 23 bonuses all told. He had 8 fight of the nights, 13 performances of the night. So he outperformed you slightly in the performance picking, not as good in the fight of the nights, and also 2 underdog picks of the week. I only got 17 total bonuses collected over the course of the year. I had 8 fight of the nights, 6 performances, and 3 underdogs. So I am a little bit better at the underdog pick of the week than you guys, but you both kind of dominated me in the performance game. So you're our bonus master. I'm the DraftKings master. Wes is our pick prodigy. And that is all the bookkeeping we have. We can carry on to UFC Fight Night St. Louis.
And just a quick heads up, as we talked about just a second ago, you joined before the battle full time a year ago tomorrow.
Oh, wow. Big day.
Yes. Tomorrow is your lucky day. It's a 1-year anniversary of the,
really
of the
feels
best
like
trio.
If Wes is going to not be here, it feels like we should have just pushed this to tomorrow then.
I guess so. Tomorrow I'm doing Beyond Combat though, so.
Well, see, I told you guys. Somebody is trying to keep this podcast afloat. The other members not as committed.
Not as committed. All right, well, let's move on. UFC Fight Night 124 goes down this weekend on Sunday, not Saturday. Almost.
Was this a Sunday card?
It is.
I had no idea, honestly.
I guess there's football maybe on Saturday and Dana wants to watch. I don't know. But they typically do a Sunday card like the first fight night of January. It's usually the 4-fight FS1 card. I didn't realize that until Mookie told me.
It's definitely yesterday. A football thing.
What's that?
It's definitely a football thing because it'll be a night event, and they're not doing any more evening Sunday night games for pro football. So it makes sense.
Because if you remember last year, the Penn Rodriguez card was 4 fights on the main card. Before that, we had Dillashaw Cruz 4 fights, McGregor Seaver. So it's a trend, and I completely forgot about it. But it's kind of nice because the card actually starts earlier in the day, but ends earlier in the night. And so we get 4 fights on FS1 instead of the regular 6. So I'm not complaining.
Oh, and it's a holiday weekend. That's why. Shit.
Oh, is it? What's the holiday?
Well, in the United States, Monday is Martin Luther King Day. So
okay,
I guess you guys probably don't get that one. But it's a national holiday for us, so we get Monday off too.
Yeah, I don't think we do, but I'll double check because I'm not going to show up to school on Monday and no one being there.
I would guess
Okay.
that you don't, but I mean, he didn't just make contributions to America; he made them the world over. So maybe you guys should start recognizing Canada. Get with the program. It's 2018, guys. 2018.
Yeah, we should. I would agree. UFC Fight Night at 124 goes down this Sunday in St. Louis, Missouri. We have Jeremy Stevens and Duho Choi in the featherweight division in the main event. As I said, 4 fights on FS1, going to be a somewhat early night. Let's be honest, it's UFC, it's FS1, not going to be a super early night, but earlier than usual. So, as I said, not complaining. Let us go to the 5-fight UFC Fight Pass early prelim card at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. We kick things off in the featherweight division. Mads Burnell taking on Mike Santiago, who is known for his stoppage win over Dana White's Contender Series this past summer. He made his debut. It was Zabit Magomed Sharapov's debut as well. Zabit
Debut. It's a rough debut.
Exactly. And so that didn't go his way. He was, I believe, choked out in the second, I want to say. Of course, right. Zabit will go on to be a big fight, a very good fighter. He already is. So I think we'll look back on this, and there's no shame in losing to Zabit Magomed Sharapov, even in 2017. So we got this fight. Burnell, Mike Santiago. Seems like an easier matchup for Santiago. He's the favorite here. Are you picking him, or do you think the Denmark fighter in Mads Burnell can get the upset?
Yeah, I'm picking Mike Santiago. Look, I don't think a whole lot of Mads Burnell. I know he has some grappling acumen to his name. He just never really impressed me a ton when I went back and looked into him a lot. His UFC debut against Michel Prazeres was very underwhelming. I think you could say that at the least. Just a lot of things not working for him in his favor here. If he can get it to the ground against Mike Santiago, maybe he can do something there. He might be a little bit better of a grappler, but I don't think it's by leaps and bounds enough. I think Santiago is just kind of a better all-around fighter, certainly a more experienced fighter. Maybe Burnell makes a big leap. He's real young. I don't even know do you know how old Burnell is?
No, I don't.
I think he's like 23 or 24. So like he's still real young. I'm looking it up right now just because he's 23. 23. Okay. He is 23 years old. So like because he's 23 years old, maybe he just makes some type of huge leap and we're not expecting it. But I'm just gonna stick with Mike Santiago, veteran guy. And honestly, like he fought Zabit Magomed Sharapov and hung in for like a little bit. So that's enough for me. Give me Mike Santiago. Let's go by a decision.
Yeah, I got to go with Mike Santiago here as well. I think he's just sort of all around a bit of a better fighter than Mads Burnell. I don't think too much of Burnell. Admittedly, don't know a ton about him. He is only one of the UFC like Santiago, but although Michel Prazeres is a good fighter, I think losing to Prazeres is still a little different than losing to Magomed Sharapov. I think, especially once we see Zabit develop a bit more and go on further in his UFC career. I think Santiago is a better fighter. I think he's a better finisher. He has a bit more finishing potential. Burnell is a decent grappler, and I guess that's where sort of his area to win this fight. But I think Santiago probably is able to keep the standing. He's way more active on the feet than Burnell. And I think Santiago might be able to finish him on the feet, maybe a second-round TKO win. But, of course, if it goes to judges, I wouldn't be surprised. But official pick is Santiago by second-round TKO. We move on to the women's strawweight division with Daniel Dynamite Taylor and JJ Aldrich. Taylor, I believe, is coming off the win over Jessica Panay. I think that is right. Yes, she's on a 2-fight winning streak. Siohi Hamderley and Jessica Panay. Her debut didn't go her way. It was a August 2016 split decision loss to Marina Rose in what I remember to be one of the worst fights of that year. Do you like JJ Aldrich or Daniel Taylor? Odds-wise, it's a close one.
Oh, what are the odds at?
They're last time I checked, they're damn close to even. Let's see. Taylor's plus 110, Aldrich is minus 130. Last time I checked, they were even closer.
Oh, wow. Minus 130 for Aldrich. I'm a little bit surprised by that. Not gonna lie. I'm taking Daniel Taylor here. Daniel Taylor's I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm taking her in part because I was at the UFC Nashville where she beat Jessica Panay. I did not predict her to win that fight. She really impressed me in the showing in general, and she more than that impressed me backstage. She's just an awesome person, and I really like her as a human being. Um, and so I'm gonna pick her here. Not that I have anything against JJ Aldrich. But her Taylor's biggest issue is that she is really an atom weight masquerading as a straw weight because she is just teeny tiny tiny. But I think she's got enough skill, and JJ Aldrich is not an impressive enough fighter for me to think like you said, one of the worst fights in recent memory from old JJ Aldrich here. So I like Danielle Taylor. I think she's a cool person. I'm gonna take her because why not? It'll be fun to take an underdog.
Yeah, I gotta agree. I was surprised, like you, to see Taylor as the underdog. I mean, I don't. It could go either way. I think the odds are close for a reason. Taylor has fought the better competition. You know, JJ Aldrich is coming off a win over Chan Mi Juan, and let's be honest, does that mean a whole lot in 2017, 2018? Probably not. Juan has some potential, but she's super young. I think she's like 20 years old or something. And so, you know, Aldrich is 1-1 at the UFC. Her win over Jean was good, but again, it's hard to take much away from it. Where Taylor, the Panay fight, I don't remember being fantastic, but it's still a pretty big win, and she was an underdog. Panay, former title challenger, she, semifinalist, I believe, on the Ultimate Fighter. So I mean, that was a name on her record. I think Taylor has probably she's more of an athlete. I think she's a bit more athletic than Aldrich. Her striking seems a bit more crisp. She's not as active. In general, Taylor's not very active on the feet, so that could cost her in some fights, but I don't think it will in this one. I like Taylor to be able to outpoint Aldrich, mostly on the feet. I think it'll be a decision. I don't think this will be too super fun to watch, but maybe they can prove me wrong. But I'm going to Daniel Taylor by decision. We move on to the returning Kyung Ho Kang, Mr. Perfect, taking on Guido Canetti, who's also coming off a pretty long layoff. Him, due to USADA suspension, it was a tainted supplement, if I do recall correctly. And Kang, I don't know why he's been out. He's been out for quite some time. Do you have any idea? Has it just been injuries or?
I am not, frankly. So here's a true and sad story. I work in MMA media landscape for a living. Was completely unaware that Kang had fought 4 times before in the UFC. He has been off since 2014, so like well over 3 years, almost 4 years. I mean, wait, he's Korean, so it had to have been service.
Oh yeah, that right? Probably.
Like I'll do a quick Google search on that. But
military service. Yep.
I'm gonna assume almost certainly that it was military service. So this is how MMA works, man. He's been gone doing military service for 4 years. We're gonna talk about this in the main event too, because Doo Ho Choi's service time is coming up. I think he only has like a year left, so we lose some talent there. And I completely forgot he existed and had put together a pretty solid run, a two fight win streak in the UFC until we started talking about this fight. So yeah, but be that as it may, he's a much better fighter than Guido Canetti. I just don't think a ton about Guido Canetti. The question for me here, I think Kyung Ho Kang can kind of win this fight anywhere. I think he's just a bigger dude too, a better athlete. But he's probably just gonna outgrapple the shit out of Guido Canetti, and I think that's how the cookie crumbles in this one. Give me Kyung Ho Kang by decision.
I would agree. Layouts for both kind of concerning. How does Kang look? How does Canetti look? It's really tough to say. I would like to think sort of their layouts. I know Kang's has been a bit longer. He's been out since 2014. I think Canetti fought in 2015. It was the Rousey Kohea card the last time Rousey won. So, I mean, that's long enough. I mean, Canetti hasn't fought. I mean, Rousey has won a fight since Canetti has fought. So, just sort of for some context. But I think style-wise, Kang matches up pretty well against Canetti. He's a better grappler. Canetti's, he's not a bad fighter, I don't think. He's not a good fighter. He's well-rounded. He has a bit of stand-up skills, a bit of submissions. He's coming on, his debut was a submission loss, I should say, and Kang has a number of submissions under his belt. So I'm going to go the returning Kyung Ho Kang. I'll go decision because I think there will be some ring rust on both sides. I don't think we'll see a stoppage, so I'm going to go Mr. Perfect, the South Korean, by unanimous decision. Next up, we go to the women's bantamweight division with Talita Bernardo taking on Irene Aldana. Brazil versus Mexico. Who do you like here?
Man, as we go through this card, let me just tell you, people, Sunday is the Lord's Day. If you're not into that, it's also just a beautiful day to spend with your family, doing something other than watching this card. Cause man, this is not where anyone wants to be with any of this stuff. So hug your kids, hug your siblings, your parents, hug your neighbor, hug your dog, somebody else. Do something else other than watch this fucking card. That being said, Irene Aldana, I'm gonna keep this short and sweet, is way bigger than Talita Bernardo and is good enough defensive wrestler to keep it on the feet, and Bernardo is going to get chewed up on the feet by Aldana's volume, if nothing else. So give me Aldana. I think she's a big favorite. Certainly feels like she should be a big favorite. She's a pretty large favorite, and that's good reason. Give me Irene Aldana by decision.
Seems like a pretty accurate prediction. I would have to agree with it, and I think, have we agreed on everyone? So
yeah, we're lockstep so far.
Keeping it a little boring, but hopefully that'll change.
We ain't keeping it boring. Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby keeping it boring.
Yeah, I didn't. You give props to them last week on the circus, like saying
I did. Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, a lot of these fights are at least well matched, but like these are just people that shouldn't be on roster. Like that's just it. Like the roster's too big, and like if the UFC cut every person we've talked about so far. Even though I told you I think Danielle Taylor's hilarious, like awesome and fun and a bubbly, great human, like no one's going to be sad if these people just have to go get some real wins to build a resume instead of doing it on the undercard of a random fight night in the middle of St. Louis.
Yeah, 5 Fight Pass fights. I'm not a fan of that.
It's a lot. 13 fights is so damn long.
The top of this card is actually pretty good. Like I love the main event. The co-main event really shouldn't be happening, but it's names. I'll take it.
The top 5 fights of this card are fine. And then even Thiago Alves, Zach Cummings, I think that's next up on our list of talking about. So no, it's not. Jesus.
You still have Jessica I, don't worry.
Yeah, good God. Yeah, Jessica I, who's on like an 8-fight losing streak.
Yeah, so anyways, I'm going to take it from here. I am going Irene Aldana as well. Bernardo is 0-1 in the UFC. She was TKO'd by Marin Renault in her debut, I believe, last September. So, take that for what it's worth. TKO loss to Renault isn't the worst loss you can have on your record. It's not the best one either. Aldana is, she's a sizable favorite, but she's also way bigger than Bernardo, as you said. Bernardo appears to be more of a submission fighter than anything. Aldana, pretty decent on the feet. She seems to be, because she's the fighter. She had 1 loss. That was to, oh wow, she's coming off 2 losses. I thought she beat Chukagan, but yeah, now I remember Chukagan beat her. So Aldana needs this win. She was pretty hyped up going into her debut against Leslie Smith, and it was a fight night. It was a good fight, but she lost, and now she's coming off 2 losses as well. So she needs this one. I think it's a favorable matchup for her. I see her keeping on the feet and outstriking Talita Bernardo. So give me Irene Aldana with her first UFC victory, and it'll come by the judges. Unanimous decision. All right, last UFC Fight Pass early prelim, we got Kalindra Faria taking on Jessica I. Faria made her UFC debut at UFC 216. It was on short notice. She fought Mauro Romero Barella, who also fought on short notice, because this was that whole, it was supposed to be Andrea Lee, who Lee, if I remember right, was supposed to fight Faria, and then Lee pulled out or got out.
Yeah, Lee was pulled by USADA.
Yeah.
She didn't fail something. She didn't do her paperwork or something.
It was because she had a failed drug test in the past.
Oh, is that what it was?
And because it was shoot, I forget what the substance was. It was what Cerrone failed for, like back in WEC days.
No fucking clue.
Diuretics, yeah, obviously.
Whenever someone starts talking about USADA, unless it's literally John Jones, because that's an enormous thing, in one ear and out the other, I could not give a shit what anyone fails for. I think USADA is stupid. We've talked about this a million times.
Yeah, some female fighter failed a drug test today and got suspended.
Yeah, she got suspended for 2 years before she ever made her debut. It's insanity.
All right. Well, I think so. We got Feria I, Kalindra Feria, Jessica I. Who'd you like here?
I'm taking Faria, man. Look, I'm not gonna pretend like I know a ton about what's going on with this girl. Jessica I hasn't won in. Do you know the last time Jessica I won?
Uh, Not off the top of my head. It's been a long, long
2014.
time.
Jessica I hasn't won since
Leslie
what
Smith, the
I mean,
ear.
yeah, she hasn't won since Kyung Ho Kong last fought in the UFC. So like that's she just keeps losing. And whether you think like I know she had a couple of close contests in that, but she keeps losing. She should have
I
been
mean,
cut
she's
by the
lost
UFC.
to decent fighters, like
Yeah,
maybe
like
aside from Betch Correia, who's not a bad fighter,
I,
but
I think Betch Correia is a top 10 fighter. I mean, look, realistically, she lost to Tate, Pena, McMahon, and Betch Correia, who are all top 10 fighters in the bantamweight division. This is her, I believe, her making her flyweight debut, right?
I think so.
Yeah, so like it makes sense to me that she would be a favorite here, but a little part of me does think like, shit, man, like if you keep losing that long, like that's just it's hard to rebound from continually losing like that. Even with a weight, we've seen weight changes not do anything to help anybody realistically. And I mean, the other thing is, Kalindra Faria is not a terrible fighter. I know her UFC debut was pretty bad, with a first round submission, but she's fought Karolina Kowalkiewicz. She fought Jessica Aguilar. Both of those went to decisions, and that was more recently than Jessica I had a win. Like in 2015, Faria went to a split decision with Kowalkiewicz, who's one of the best strawweights in the world. Like this girl has some talent to her. There's no mistaking it, and
And she's the one who won the Titan FC title last year, I think,
yeah, she did. Won the bantamweight title.
against Ham or something. Not
Dam.
Ham,
Karina
Ham,
Dam.
Damn.
Karina
Okay.
Dam. Dam. Karina Dam. Yeah, like look, she's got some talent. Her debut did not go her way very clearly. And I won't be super shocked if Jessica I drops to flyweight and then suddenly does look better because she's not facing women much bigger than her that are in the top 10 of that division. But I also won't be surprised if she's just completely forgotten how to win because she hasn't done it in 4 years. So give me Kalindra Faria for the upset by decision. This is still, Jessica is a tough woman. Whatever else I may talk trash about her consistently losing, Misha Tate, Juliana Pena, and Sarah McMahon all took her to a decision. Like I don't think she's been stopped in her career.
Yeah, I mean, I think the smart pick would probably be Kalindra Faria, just because Jessica I has not proven she can win a fight, as you said, in over 3 years. And so, I mean, I at one point was fairly high on Jessica I. I think a lot of people were. The Leslie Smith win was a good performance, and I remember after that she was definitely ranked in the top 10, maybe even a bit higher. And people thought she was, give her one more win, and maybe you can start talking about a title shot. But that totally derailed. That totally went off the tracks. The Jessica I plans went out the window. And here she is, probably fighting for her job. I mean, that we thought that was the case last fight, so maybe not. And I mean, what's her name? The girl, the strawweight who always loses. Fought on the Bisman Gaslam card, lost to Van Zandt in her debut. You know who I'm talking about. Hawaiian.
I have no idea what we're talking. I wasn't even paying attention to you. Sorry.
Never mind. But basically, there are worse fighters on the roster than Jessica I, so it won't shock me if she goes in and loses and keeps her job still. But I got to go Faria, simply because I cannot pick Jessica I in another fight until she proves that she can win a fight, until she proves that's wrong. So I'm going Faria. Her debut wasn't so good, very bad actually, but I think she'll sort of be hungry to prove everybody wrong and show that she is a decent, talented fighter. And I think she'll be able to show that against Evil Eye. So give me Kalindra Faria, probably by decision. I don't think too much of this fight, if I'm being honest.
Dude, quit fucking copying my picks.
I'm quite surprised this is the featured Fight Pass early prelim. If anything, throw Mike Santiago in there, or who knows, anybody. But whatever. Faria is the pick.
Quit copying my picks. We are lockstep. I've taken two underdogs, and we are side by side together in all our picks so
if
far.
we're being honest, the two underdogs we picked, I mean, they're barely underdogs to me. Like
Faria is a big underdog.
Really?
I think I's a 2-1 favorite here.
Ferry is minus 110. What the
Oh
hell are you
no,
talking about?
I thought it was for some reason I thought. Oh, I know why. Okay, because the next one I'm taking an underdog, and he's a much bigger underdog. I was mistaking this.
All right. Next up, FS1 prelims, 4 fights on the underdog or undercard. They start at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We go to Thiago Alves, Zach Cummings kicking things off. The Pitbull. He's back in action from Brazil, taking on America. Zach Cummings, who do you like here? I think you already sort of spoiled it. You said an underdog. And Alves is about let us see here. It's about a 2-1 underdog. He's plus 180.
I did spoil it. I am taking Thiago Alves. Um, Look, Zach Cummings is a much younger guy. I mean, he's actually not like age wise, but you know, I'm talking like mileage wise. He's a younger dude than Thiago Alves. And he has put together a good run. Like his only loss in the last little bit is Santiago Ponzinibbio, who we now know is one of the top welterweights in the world. Um, but that being said, I don't know. I could be way wrong here. I've always sort of had a soft spot for Thiago Alves. Uh, I think I didn't pick him to beat Condit, obviously, but I think his last like 8 fights, I've probably picked him to win. Because I just he's got a lot of skill, and he's now at that point where he's just like a veteran fighter, and he's going to use veteran tricks. Um, the going down to lightweight thing was a terrible idea. We saw that he didn't look any type of good against Jim Miller, who's a sneaky great fighter in his own right. I think back at welterweight, he's fine. I just think he's got a little more depth of skill than Zach Cummings. I think Zach Cummings likes to mix in his wrestling. I don't think that's going to be an effective strategy against Thiago Alves. Guy who's always been fairly good at staying upright. I think he throws more volume on the feet. I think those leg kicks are going to chew up Zach Cummings' lead foot, and Zach Cummings isn't going to be able to bring to bear his kind of like physical demeanor. Because he's going to be a bigger dude in general. But the thing about Thiago Alves is he's never been a huge welterweight. It's why he did make the lightweight drop, and he's always navigated those size differences completely fine. I like his game better than Zach Cummings. I'm not going to be surprised if Zach Cummings puts like, you know, lands and hurts and cracks Thiago Alves, and then gets a finish with him. Because Zach Cummings has a pretty strong ability to finish people, no mistake about that. And Thiago Alves is not the fighter he once was as far as taking things anymore. But I just think that that's likely not going to happen, and that Thiago Alves kind of his technical superiority takes the day here. So give me Thiago Alves by leg kicky decision.
I hate to say it, Jed, but I'm going Alves too.
I'm gonna fucking stab you in the face, man.
We're a little far away for that, but come to Winnipeg and you can try.
It's too cold. You're lucky. It's the one good thing about staying up there. It's a natural defense.
That is true. I like Thiago Alves here as well. As I said, I think he's, I agree with pretty much everything of what you said. And trust me, I'm not doing this because you just picked Alves. I laughed inside when you said that.
What he's doing this is because he knows that I outperformed him strongly in our picks competition, and he had planned to copy Wes's picks, but he can't now because Wes hasn't given us picks. So instead, he's just going to copy mine so he can stay with the group early on and then try and break late for the year of 2018 pick selection. I'm on to your games, Nikolai. I'm on.
Well, I mean, Wes finished in first for the picks for 2017, didn't he, right?
Yeah, but you can't copy his picks.
No,
he's not
exactly.
here.
So, I mean, I was in third, and so...
Yeah, so you're copying me now. You're going to copy Wes next week. I know what you're doing.
Whoever's available, I'm copying because I'm last, and so I gotta step my game up, and maybe that's
copy the shit out of your bonus picks.
Okay, so Alves, I think we'll be able to chew Zach Cummings up on the feet. I think he's a more technical guy. I'm about to sneeze. No, I'm not. Zach Cummings is good on the feet. He has power. We saw that against Dominic Steele. I believe that was his last knockout win. It was a while back, but it was a good performance. Overall, Cummings is getting better on the feet. But Alves has been always very, very good on the feet. And I think Cummings really needs to mix in his takedowns and his grappling game in this one. I think that's where he could be the superior fighter over Pitbull. But I'm thinking he's looking to stand and trade a little bit with Alves, and I think that'll end up coming to bite him in the ass pretty much. I think Thiago Alves will be able to outpoint him on the feet. I think he'll put on a pretty technical performance. We've seen that sort of side of Thiago Alves, the more technical side, I believe in his last win, Patrick Cote. It's been a little while, bit of a layoff for Alves, but I guess the last time you saw Zach Cummings wasn't too. It's been a bit for Cummings as well. He fought in April as well, so it was a week later or something. So a bit of layoff for both. But I like Alves here. I like him probably by decision. But yeah, I'm going to go to decision. I'm not going to say if it's a TKO, won't be surprised. I would be a little shocked if Alves knocks out Cummings, simply because Cummings has a pretty good chin. He's durable. So Alves by decision. We move on to the lightweight division. Matt Frevola making his debut, coming off a win on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series over the summer. He's taking on El Toro from Mexico, Marco Polo Reyes, obviously a super fun fighter, best known for his Fight of the Year candidate win last year over the other Dong Han Kim. Do you like Frevola, who is a favorite here, or do you think Polo Reyes can pull off the upset?
I mean, I'm taking Frevola. One, his nickname is the Steamroller, the Steamroller Frevola. I think that's awesome. Two, I just don't think a ton of Polo Reyes. I think he's a great action fighter and a fun fighter. I don't think a super lot of his game. And Frevola, for a very raw guy at this point, seems to show some real acumen for the fight game. So there's a reason he's a sizable favorite, not like a huge one, but a clean favorite here. And I'm going to stick with the odds makers on this one. I won't be surprised if it goes either way. Frevola is still so young in his career, really. Like 5 fights? I don't even know how many fights he actually has. 6 fights,
yeah.
6 fights. Turned pro 3 years ago. It's just, a lot of things can happen here, but he looked pretty impressive on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series with that submission win. Polo Reyes, I mean, no shame in Polo Reyes getting knocked out by James Vick. We're talking about one of the best guys in the division at that point. And that's, yeah, so like it's just a tough way to go. But yeah, give me Matt the Steamroller Frevola submission. Let's go with the submission. I think he's gonna choke him out.
Alrighty, I'm pretty sure Frevola was one of the Contender Series card he was on was one of the ones I missed, because I saw I think there was 8 of them and I saw 5 or 6 or something, but there were a couple of them I missed, and so I'm not as familiar with the Steamroller as some people, but I'm going to trust the odds makers on this one. Basically, it's not exactly a fade on Marco Polo Reyes, but I mean, Frevola seems to be a pretty good prospect. He's 6-0, while Reyes, just looking at his record and knowing more about him, he's 8-4. Sort of the deal with Polo Reyes at this point. He's an action fighter. He's super fun to watch. As I said, the Dong Han Kim fight last year was one of the best fights of the year, if not the best fight. I mean, yeah, I know you will go Condit Lawler all day, but
by last year, you mean 2 years ago?
I guess so. 2 years ago. Happy New Year, everybody. So yeah, I'm going Frevola, but if Reyes just comes out swinging and knocks him out, I can't be shocked. But I think Frevola is more technical. Reyes has a ceiling. We know where it is. He's an action fighter. He's not much more than that. I think Frevola will choke him out. Give me Frevola by submission in round number 2. We move on to the lightweight division. James Krause taking on Alex the Spartan White. James is coming off a win over Tom Galecchio after the Ultimate Fighter 25 stint, where he reached the semifinals. The Spartan is coming off a TKO victory over Mitch Clark, which was Clark's last fight, of course. That was back in September. Krause last fought in July. USA versus USA. Who'd you like?
Give me James Krause all day. I think this is a pretty straightforward fight. We've seen a lot of both of these guys. I think James Krause is better, more active on the feet, and I think that's what matters here. The Galecchio win, I mean, that fight looked a textbook fight to me. Like, he could have stopped Galecchio at any point in time that he really wanted to, but Tom Galecchio was a guy that everyone in that tough house loved, was a great dude. They were training partners the whole time, and it really seemed like Krause just coasted, handily won every round and coasted just because he didn't want to kind of do Galecchio dirty like that. I think he would stunt on him if they actually fought, and I think similarly he'll bust up Alex White here in general. So give me James Krause. Do I think he gets a late stoppage? No, I think that ends up going to decision, which is cool because I think I've predicted one stoppage on the card so far. So yeah, James Krause by decision.
Hate to do this again, but give me James Krause by decision. I don't think it's as straightforward as you do. I mean, Alex White, I think, is getting better, but I've never been super high on him. Just for what it's worth, I did pick Mitch Clark against him, so that sort of gives you where I'm feeling as far as where Alex White is. Although I did pick Alex White against Artem Lobov, and I think White was an underdog in that one. So I'm proud of knowing somewhat where White is, and more so where Lobov was. But I like D. James Krause here. I think he gets a decision. I think he's a bit more technical on his feet. He's slightly more active. White throws quite a bit. His activity rate is good as well, but Krause just slightly more. I think he's a bit more technical, just well rounded. He has a submission game as well. Not saying White doesn't, but I think Krause has fought better competition. He's been around a bit longer. He's coming down from welterweight. He hasn't made 155 for quite a while. I know I talked to him when he was here in Winnipeg to corner Tim Elliott before Elliott was scrapped from the card. And he mentioned like this is the first time making 155 for like 2 years or something like that, right around there. So it's been a while, so we'll see how the weight cut goes, but he's been at lightweight long time before, so I don't expect that to be an issue really at all. So yeah, I like James Krause. I like him by decision. And I guess if White wins, I'd be pretty surprised. I think the odds here, Krause is a sizable favorite, minus 150, nothing major. Could even be a bit higher, in my opinion. So Krause by decision. That is the pick, and we move on to the final FS1 prelim. Probably should be on the main card. It's a fun featherweight bout between number 10, Darren Elkins, the Damage, and maybe the worst tattoo in MMA. And I'm looking at UFC.com right now for this fight, and funny enough, they have an updated Elkins fighter photo to have the Damage tattoo on his chest. So I think that might have been done on purpose. He's taking on Michael Johnson, former lightweight contender who is stepping down to 145 for the very first time. He is the Menace. Interestingly, it's number 10 versus number 10. Number 10 at 145 versus number 10 still at 155, even though he's dropping down. Darren Elkins, Michael Johnson, who's the pick here?
I mean, I'm taking Michael Johnson here. This is entirely dependent on the weight cut. I'm less concerned about James Krause's ability to cut back to lightweight after he's been going for a while than I am about Michael Johnson, who has never made it to featherweight before. He seems very confident, and all the talk about it seems to be that this is not all this chatter I'm hearing is that he has not had a hugely difficult time with this and should be on weight come Friday morning. But it's still the first time you see somebody dropping down, and I don't share the same verve that you and others do about weight cutting in MMA. I don't hate it like other people do. I just don't give a shit about it. I do think that going down in weight is rarely the answer for improvement. Historically, it's just not been a huge sell, really, unless you're like clearly, if you had a successful career at the weight division you were in, going down is probably unnecessary. One of the few fighters that really kind of showed this to be okay is like Frankie Edgar's one of the few guys I can think of who like he had a great lightweight career, didn't need to cut to 45, but it's been a good featherweight. But Frankie Edgar also was probably a natural 135er, so him cutting to 145, not a huge discrepancy here. I think more often than not, moving down in weight doesn't help you. So very interested to see Michael Johnson, how he looks here, how this weight cut affects him. I think it's a good matchup for him. If the weight cut isn't a big deal, I think Michael Johnson, before Michael Johnson fought Khabib, people were thinking that this is really a very difficult stylistic matchup for Khabib. It's a guy with fast hands, accurate hands, and pretty sturdy takedown defense. And then Khabib just blew his fucking doors off. Darren Elkins is not Khabib Nurmagomedov. No one is Khabib Nurmagomedov. I think that Darren Elkins is going to struggle to get the takedowns here, forced to stand up and bang with Michael Johnson for the most part. And on the feet, it's close to a slaughter. Michael Johnson has a ton of power and a ton of his hands are stupid fast. I think he can just mark up Darren Elkins. Darren Elkins, shoe leather tough, going to hang in there the whole time. Maybe we see something like the Bektic fight, because Michael Johnson is a dude that can get broken. And so I think that when we talked, we talked earlier about how I said Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby have done a great job of matchmaking. I think this is an example because Elkic is a guy who breaks people, who grinds them down, and Michael Johnson is a guy that can get broken down. So that it's an interesting fight from a couple of different angles here. I still just think Michael Johnson is a much better athlete, much better fighter at this point, and Darren Elkins just going to hit the wall. That is this. So give me the hand speed, the striking acumen, the power of Michael Johnson. I think he's gonna. When was the last time Darren Elkins got stopped? Do you know off the top of your head?
It's been a while.
I mean, he's one of those guys who's really tough. I don't,
If
Chad
athlete, I
Mendez.
guess.
Chad Mendez was the one I was thinking, and it is in fact the last time he got stopped. Chad Mendez is Chad Mendez. But I wouldn't be super shocked considering Elkins is getting older now. So yeah, give me Michael Johnson with a late TKO. Just gotta pick so many damn decisions. I'd like to see a stoppage happen. So Michael Johnson makes a big splash in his featherweight debut, third round TKO win.
I think the biggest difference here from the Bektic fight, I mean, it's not really a comparable matchup because Bektic and Johnson are by no means the same fighter. But I think the biggest difference, and it's funny that you bring it up, like you can definitely see that, and I would agree. I mean, Bektic clear. I mean, okay, say what you want about him, but Johnson, we've seen against multiple opponents. And it's hard to say it could be. I mean, Khabib broke him of it, but Khabib breaks everybody. So take that for what it's worth. But we saw the Nate Diaz fight start. Him starting to pick Johnson apart. I think it's fair to say, as you said, Johnson can be broken. The difference
Gaethje broke him.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
He gets broken. Like he has a ceiling that he will hit in a fight if somebody puts him to it. I just don't think Darren Elkins can put him there.
The difference, though, is that Johnson in general has decent fight IQ, and that was the big issue for Bektic in that fight because he was having consistent success on the ground, yet he started to stand with Elkins more often. And we saw glimpses throughout the fight, like second round, maybe early third round. Elkins is doing better while they're standing than while off his back. But Bektic, instead of just keeping on taking him down, eventually started focusing on the striking, and we saw what happened. Elkins knocked him out late in the third, and so I don't think
that's bad fight IQ, though. The thing is,
if you're doing better on the ground than the feet, to fight on the feet doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
No, it makes a ton of sense because he felt like he was so in control of that fight that he was getting experience on the feet. Like I remember at the time thinking, this is good. Get some work on the feet. You can take it down at will. And it wasn't like he got tuned up on the feet. It's not act like he was getting chewed up when they were striking. Like he was doing fine. He was winning that fight every moment until Elkins kind of just like clipped him one time and hurt him. I mean, it's a dangerous game to do. I have a bigger issue thinking that Mirsad Bektic's chin might not be great than I do thinking that his fight IQ is bad. Like he got buzzed by because it's not like Darren Elkins is a heavy hitter, Like if I'm coaching against him, I'd be like, yeah, you can go stand with Darren Elkins as long as you want. Maybe you lose the fight on points, but at that point, clearly Mirsad Bektic wasn't losing on points. But I'm not going to be like, watch out, he's going to knock you out, and then he did. So I think it's a lot more concerning about his chin than his IQ, personally.
Yeah. I mean, definitely his chin. We'll see. He's fighting Godofredo Pepe later this month, but
that'll be a good way to test it.
That's true. Anyway, so I like Michael Johnson here. I like him by decision, not TKO, so I guess we differ there. Yay for us, making it semi-interesting. I like Johnson here actually quite a bit. I think he's way more technical on the feet. I think he's obviously a way better athlete than Darren Elkins. But Elkins is, super, super tough. Johnson, as we talked about, he's been broken in the past. Maybe we see glimpses of previous fights for both Elkins and Johnson, and maybe Elkins can pull something out of his hat. But I don't see that happening. I think Johnson puts on a very technical performance. He's a super quick fighter, and even dropping down in weight where fighters are usually quicker. Elkins isn't really that quick. He's not known for his speed. I don't think that'll change anything. I think Johnson probably still has the speed advantage by quite a bit. He's more active on the feet. I think this favors Johnson in most areas. I mean, obviously Elkins probably looks for wrestling, looks to take this to the ground, but Johnson has typically had decent takedown defense unless fighting Khabib Nurmagomedov or the like. So yeah, I like Michael Johnson here. I like the number 10 lightweight turned featherweight, as long as the weight cut goes okay. If Michael Johnson blows weight, I'm still probably picking him, but if he looks super drained and not ready to go.
If he blows weight, I'm changing my pick. So I'll put that out there. If Michael Johnson does not hit his weight mark, my pick will by default switch to
even if Darren it's Elkins. 156.5, 146.5.
Yes.
Okay.
If he blows weight, I'm taking Darren Elkins.
Okay. I will Maybe. I mean, it really depends to me on how he looks because for me, weight misses, if you're, say, 5 pounds overweight, to me, that's almost not as bad as missing by like a pound or 2 pounds because it seems like you stop cutting. But sometimes situations are always different. Sometimes their bodies just can't cut 5 pounds and that's terrible. Sometimes they choose to stop to save their life almost. So it's a tough call, but I'm going with Johnson. He's a more technical guy. He's quicker. He's younger. A little. Well, he's probably not age-wise younger. Maybe I don't know. They're close, but nonetheless, Michael Johnson, the Menace, is the pick by unanimous decision. And with that, we can move on to the FS1 main card. 4 fights, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. We kick things off in the welterweight division. Kamaru, Nigerian Nightmare Usman, taking on Emil Mack at 170 pounds. Fun fight, number 10 versus unranked. Who do you like here? Usman is, of course, a very big favorite.
I like Kamaru Usman. I, like many, think that he is amongst the best fighters in the division. I do kind of want to point out that this idea that he is like something enormously special is a little bit off to me. Seems a little bit weird because like he's had one really good performance and he bolted the shit out of Sergio Moraes, and up until that point he was kicking his ass. Let's also remember he was an enormous favorite over Sergio Moraes anyway, so like that's it. But other than that, like, look, a decision win over Sean Strickland. I think Sean Strickland's a very tough guy. It's a good win. Decision win over Warley Alves. Again, a tough guy. Alexander Yakovlev. Again, these are tough guys, but Leon Edwards, he has beat a lot of actually very good fighters, but it's not like he has been murdering them. He has been winning convincing fights. Absolutely. But he hasn't been just like, it's not like he's Sergio Moraes, all of these guys that he's fought. He's had one really stellar standout performance, and the others are just very strong, very complete, very wrestle-heavy performances. I do think we saw his striking look just incredibly better. Like he has been improving a ton. I don't know if he's still Black Zillions isn't a thing anymore. Is he working with Hoofed Combat Club? Like I don't know who's training him right now.
Who, Usman?
Yeah,
I think he's at Combat Club.
I would assume so because I just sort of feel like most of the talented people from Black Zillions just went to Combat Club when Black Zillions sort of kind of fell apart or whatever the fuck happened there.
Well, now they do Combat Club, and there's another place, something 360, something like Combat. I don't know, Fitness 360, or something like that. But
my belief is that he's with Henry Hooft because his striking against Sergio Moraes did look much improved. So I would assume that that's a Henry Hooft byproduct. I don't know that that's true, but look, Emil Mack is a fun guy. I love Emil Mack, and he came out and beat the hell out of Jordan Meehan. That's cool. These are just different levels of fighter. I expect to see a lot more of the wrestle-dominant Kamaru Usman, not the throw hands until Emil Mack falls over Kamaru Usman. And so it's not going to be the I think when you look at how big of a favorite he is here, a lot of people are thinking he's going to just steamroll Emil Mack. I think it's going to be a dominant win, but it's not going to be super entertaining. And it's going to be a win that he's going to get, but it's then people are going to back off this idea that he needs to be next in line for a title. He gets this win, though. He does need to fight in that Darren Till, Santiago Ponzinibbio kind of guy, one of those top tier things to start getting people towards title shots with Tyron Woodley, because that's what we need to be doing at welterweight now. So give me Kamaru Usman, unanimous wrestle heavy decision.
Yeah, I got to go Kamaru Usman here as well. And we have 3 fights to see if we are at all different for our picks for this card. And it's not looking so great, but maybe Padrian Zan can save the day or something like that. But yeah, for this fight, I like Usman. It's tough to say whether he stops Emil Mack. I'm leaning towards no. I think it'll be a dominant performance, but I'm leaning towards no simply because Emil Mack seems to be very, very tough. In his 2 losses, do you know if he's been stopped? I would lean towards no, just as a prediction.
Wait, who are we talking about?
Emil Mack. Has he been stopped? Do you know?
Yeah, he got stopped in both of his losses.
Oh, wow. How? TKOs?
Punches, yeah.
Interesting. So I wonder, he just seems to be tough. I mean, in his one UFC fight, like he took a fair amount of damage against Mean. Not a ton, but he just seems like a very tough guy with a good chin. Maybe that's not the case.
It's just the beard. He's tricking you with the beard.
Maybe. It's true. I do like Usman here, though, quite a bit. I'm high on Emil Mack, but I think Usman is on a different level, and I do think Usman is one of the best welterweights on the planet. I don't think he's getting the respect he deserves, whether that's because opponents don't want to fight him or because the UFC isn't giving him the fights he deserves. I don't know. But nonetheless, Usman should be higher in the rankings, I believe, than where he should
don't
be.
want to fight him. I think that's definitely true.
I would agree. I mean, if I would have to lean either way, I can't think the UFC is not giving him big fights. I know Usman said that Colby Covington allegedly, denied the fight.
I think he beats the shit out of Colby Covington. I think that's in part because I think very, very little of Colby Covington as a fighter.
I mean, you can think Colby Covington is a good fighter. I think Usman still ragdolls. Maybe not ragdolls, but I think he beats him pretty badly.
I think Kamaru Usman is just a better version of Colby Covington, which is why I'm a little down on Usman. I think he's a good fighter. Until his Sergio Moraes fight, he didn't show me anything that makes me think he's a great fighter. His hands have come a long way, which is good. But in my head, there's only so far you get by just like being a really good wrestler. And that's sort of what he was for a majority of his UFC career.
Well, he's a better fighter better Colby Covington in the sense that he has decent stand-up skills now. He's not the best striker, but I think ever since the Worley Alves fight,
he's a better Covington.
Constant improvements. And so he's a better Covington in the sense that he's still wrestle heavy, but he can knock guys out. And Covington, he doesn't have a knockout in the UFC, does he? I don't think so.
No, he has Covington's a better finisher on the floor.
On the floor, yes.
Because he's also a better wrestler than Kamaru Usman in general. But I think
Colby Usman overall, yeah.
Yeah, Colby Covington's an NCAA All-American.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to Usman. I think he'll be able to decision Emil Mech. I don't think it'll be a stoppage. Would not be surprised if Usman pulls off the stoppage, simply because, Meek has been stopped as we figured out, but also Usman. I think this guy is hungry. I think Kamaru Usman, he's been talking about fighting a top-ranked opponent for so long, and he hasn't really gotten that, I don't think. And Emil Mech certainly isn't that. Mech's a good fighter, but he's only 1-0 in the UFC. He's not in the top 10, not even top 15. And so I think Usman's going to be hungry. I think Usman wants to make a statement. And to him, that's probably a first-round knockout or a first-round submission. I'm not sure he gets that, but I think technically he's better than Emil Mech pretty much everywhere. So give me Kamaru Usman by decision, pretty dominant. If we see a 10-8 scorecard in there by one or more judges, I would not be surprised. Give me Usman by decision. We move on to the women's flyweight division. We got Paige 12-gauge Van Zant returning to the cage against number 10 ranked Jessica Rose Clark, who's coming off a debut victory over Bec Rawlings. Van Zant, her last win was a knockout win over Bec Rawlings. Clark's was, of course, a decision. In her last outing in December 2016, she was tapped out by the Karate Hottie, Michelle Watterson, in the very first round in the main event of UFC Sacramento. So it's been a while since we've seen Paige Van Zant. I think she did Dancing with the Stars before that. I could be wrong. I think so, but nonetheless, it has been a while. Clark just made her debut in November. Who do you like here? Van Zant, last time I checked, was actually a slight underdog. Slightly surprised about that.
I'm going to take Jessica Rose Clark, and I don't feel good about it. I think Paige Van Zant has a lot of tools to be a good fighter, and I don't think she'll ever get the respect she deserves in that regard. Because I mean this very seriously. I don't think people will take me seriously. She's one of the toughest women on the roster. Like, straight up, Paige Van Zant wants to be a fighter in general, at least some part of her, because she is freaking $2 steak tough. Like, the ass-kicking Rose Namajunas put on her, and she kept going out there, kept fighting the entire time until she could not fight anymore.
Well, and that submission defense, don't forget about that.
I mean, yeah, she was just getting battered forever, and there was no quitting her. She did not get broken at all. That is a hard fucking thing to replicate. There are not a lot of people in the world that have that. And so I think she's never going to get the credit for being just fucking tough like that. But at the same time, she is not developed in any kind of appreciable way. I don't know if getting away from Team Alpha Male, I know that she still has a relationship with them. I don't think she trains there much at all anymore because she moved back home. So maybe that's better for her because I don't think she was improving at Team Alpha Male. But I don't know. I don't know. Was she at this? Was she back in Oregon for the Watterson fight? I can't recall.
No,
but even if she was, it's not like she looked good in the Watterson fight. She got just manhandled and killed. She still she's young and she's athletic and she's tough as shit. And that's kind of that right there in a woman in that weight division is enough to build a contender out of. I haven't seen that progression from her. She still has kind of poor IQ and does a lot of stupid stuff and just leans on aggression, sort of unfocused aggression. And that worked for her to a point, but I think the game's kind of passing her by if she's not going to improve a lot. Jessica Rose Clark could easily just get out athleted here. The pressure pace of Paige Van Zant could steal the day. In general, though, I think Rose Clark's a little bit cleaner on the feet, a little bit better defensively, a little maybe more volume. I'm not really sure on how much if that's any type of different. And I think that on the floor, if she can wind up on top on the floor, certainly, which I think Paige Van Zant creates opportunities. Paige Van Zant goes for the head and arm throw all the time, which is still just awful. So I'm just ticking a couple more boxes in Jessica Rose Clark's column than Paige Van Zant, but I'm interested to see how she looks back at home away from Team Alpha Male, and I hope she looks better because I don't care about her getting pushed because of her looks. I care that she has a potential to be good in this sport, and I would like to see that fulfilled. I would like to see something come of that. So I hope that she's better and she wins this fight. I'm gonna until I see those improvements. So at this point, I got to start picking against her. So give me Jessica Rose Clark by decision.
We will finally differ, and I'm excited about this. I'm going to go with 12 gauge Paige Van Zant by decision. Not confident. I think it's a close fight. The odds indicate that. You talked about that you're not confident in Jessica Rose Clark. I'm not confident in her opponent, Paige Van Zant. But I think, as you said, I think the pace and pressure of Van Zant will be the difference maker here. I think she'll be able to outwork Clark in general, wherever the fight is. Clark is a bit more technical. I think her striking is ever slightly a bit better. I think Van Zant might have an advantage on the mat. She's a pretty good wrestler. She's decent on top. Some of her best work is obviously in the clinch area and looking for takedowns and ground and pound and things like that. Not super great. At distance, of course, we saw the kick KO over Beck Rawlings. Take that for what it's worth. I think she was losing the fight if I remember correctly.
She was, but that was cool.
It was still cool.
It was really fucking cool.
It was a good knockout. Maybe not a fantastic performance if you're looking at the whole fight, but nonetheless, I think the interesting part of this fight, more so on the side of Van Zant, is, as you talked about, well, her first being away from Team Alpha Male. It's hard to say whether this will help her because she wasn't improving at Team Alpha Male, but I gotta think she still had better training partners at Team Alpha Male. Even Cynthia Cavillo, I would imagine they trained together quite a bit. That would make sense.
I don't know when Cavillo started with Team Alpha Male,
but I mean, had been there a while, certainly before her debut in the UFC.
I mean, that's clearly a great training partner, but she's isn't she like with the remnants of Team Quest now?
Like, Van Zant?
Yeah. Because she's up in Oregon.
She's at Chael Sonnen's
she's like trading with like Chael Sonnen, yeah, which is like whatever, like the remnants of Team Quest.
Okay. But I don't know who she's actually training with because she's not sparring with Chael Sonnen, and so
I don't know. Hold on. I'll you keep talking. I'm gonna pull up her Insta and see if I can see.
All right. Well, yeah, that was a question I had though, because it's like leaving Team Alpha Male, it seems to be a good move because she wasn't getting better, but if she's going somewhere where there's no one really to train with, I don't know how much you can bank on that working. So that's going to be interesting.
Really fucking fit. I'll give her that. She looks like she has taken this shit for real serious.
I would imagine she is. She seems to like fighting, but and also the layoff, that's going to be interesting. She's taken a year off, over a year, about 13 months. So I think with a fighter her age, she's still only 23 or 24, and so it is odd that we haven't seen bigger leaps from her just because of her youth, but
Fabiano Scherner is
her
jiu-jitsu coach.
I think there's a potential we start seeing some improvements pretty soon just because of the layoff. She's young, changing up her camps, things like that. So that's going to be interesting. I'm I'm excited to see Van Zandt back in action. It's been a while, and more than anything, I'm looking forward to seeing, is she a better fighter than, say, December 2016? If she's not, then I don't know what we do with Paige Van Zandt. If she is, maybe you start thinking of higher level opponents, things like that. But I think she gets the job done against Jessica Rose Clark. As I said, pace, pressure, does what she does. I think she'll dictate the fight. I think Clark's more technical. If she keeps it on the outside, she might be able to pick her apart, but I'm going Van Zandt by decision. And
Well,
I feel like I'm many decisions, but
I'm not seeing anyone from the training partners that really impressed me, other than the fact that her jiu-jitsu coach is Fabiano Scherner, a very renowned, accomplished Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner, multiple world time champion and stuff. So I did know that she just got promoted to blue belt in the gi not that long ago, so that could be something about it. But yeah, it doesn't. I don't recognize any of her training partners from the various pictures she's in. So I don't know. I'm sticking with mine, and we'll see what happens. I won't be surprised either way.
Co-main event time, we got middleweights Uriah Primetime Hall and former UFC champion Vitor the Phenom Belfort, the old lion, whatever they call him, the young dinosaur. Or I guess old dinosaur, young lion. I don't know. I always get that confused. But he's taking on Uriah Hall. As I said off the top, this could be boring. This might be a quick knockout. This might prove that Vitor Belfort is done. This might prove that Uriah Hall half the time isn't a good fighter. I mean, it's so hard to know what to make of this fight. Both guys are inconsistent. It's 2018. Vitor Belfort is fighting a guy with knockout power. How do you see this one playing out?
I'm so tempted to take Vitor Belfort here. I know that that's kind of like baseline lunacy, but Uriah Hall is so wildly inconsistent. And Vitor Belfort, while we were talking about how people can get broken, Vitor Belfort is like the most breakable man that competes in actual fighting. Basically, the first good stiff win that goes up against him, he's going to crumble. Uriah Hall might not ever give him that. And at the same time, Uriah Hall is a dude who can get broken. And Vitor Belfort is consistent in that he is always going to come out like he's shot out of a cannon, despite the fact that he has had a very rough run his last, I don't know, whatever, 3 years since he got off the gas. He still has put together some like solid performances. Like the Nate Marquardt was a good performance. The first 2 minutes of the Jacare fight and the Mousasi fight, and the Chris Weidman title shot were solid performances. So, I mean, he, as soon as he gets met with opposition, he folds. But if he just comes out and kind of puts the hands on Uriah Hall, maybe Uriah Hall folds. Same time, though, Vitor Belfort's old. His chin's not there anymore. It's kind of base lunacy to pick against Uriah Hall in this fight. So I'm not going to. He's going to win. It probably will be violent and impressive. And then people will be like, hey, Uriah Hall's really awesome. And then he'll have to fight somebody good, and we'll remember that he's not. But yeah, give me Uriah Hall by KO second round.
Yeah, I guess Uriah Hall is the pick. I sort of will, I mean, I'm not going to reiterate what you said, but I agree with pretty much all you said. Uriah Hall is inconsistent. You don't know if he's going to win or lose. He can be one of the better middleweights on the planet. He can be one of the not so great middleweights on the planet. Vitor Belfort at this point, love him or hate him, he is practically done unless he is on testosterone replacement therapy, TRT. I'm actually interested if Vitor Belfort fights out his contract in this fight or the next fight and goes over to Ryzen. That's actually something I'm intrigued by because I would assume he's juiced up in Ryzen in Japan.
I'm for it. Give me Vitor versus Crow Cop in Ryzen. I'm down.
Yeah. I think Mookie last night on the MMA Circus suggested, jokingly of course, but he suggested Belfort versus Bigfoot, and I cringed.
Well, that's awful, but Belfort versus Crow Cop, Belfort versus Vanderlei rematch. Let's just do them all. Do them all. I want to watch old people that I used to love growing up. I want to watch them fight each other, loaded on the juice.
We could do Belfort Sonnen. I know that was supposed to happen, of course.
Yeah. I mean, that probably will happen at some point. Let's be honest with ourselves here.
Probably. So yeah, I'm going Uriah Hall. I like him by knockout, probably in round number 2 or something. This simply because you can't trust Vitor Belfort when he's not on TRT. He has no chin. And he almost lost to Nate Marquardt. He arguably should have lost to Nate Marquardt. Nate Marquardt, 6 months later, is a retired fighter. Vitor Belfort, can't trust him. Uriah Hall, can't trust him. Who do you trust more in 2018? It's got to be primetime. Give me Uriah Hall by knockout in round number 2. And that brings us to the last fight, the main event of the evening. We have a pivotal featherweight bout between Jeremy Little Heathen Stevens and Do Ho, the Korean Superboy Choi. The Korean Superboy Do Ho Choi. I don't know what order you want to say it, but nonetheless, it is fantastic. The Korean Superboy versus United States, Jeremy Stevens, Little Heathen, 26-14, 14-2, veteran versus up and comer. Who is the pick, Stevens or Choi?
It's a really tough call. Why don't you go first while I kind of mull this over, because I can't decide who I'm going to take here.
Okay. I'm going to go with the Korean Superboy. I am going to pick Do Ho Choi here. He is a slight favorite. Well, not super slight. I mean, it's pretty close. He's minus 155, plus 135 with the comeback on Stevens. I like Do Ho Choi here. Not by a lot, but I do like him. Basically, I think he's slightly more technical on the feet. He's actually, I was about to say he's a bit longer. I for some reason I thought Choi had a reach advantage, but Stevens actually has a 1 inch on him on reach, and Choi is 1 inch taller. So that's interesting. But in general, Choi fights longer. Stevens likes to get in your face sometimes, although he has turned into a more technical fighter. It's funny because he's known as a brawler, but we saw him chop Gilbert Melendez's legs down for 3 rounds. And in a fairly technical and very impressive performance. And so I think a lot of what people think Jeremy Stevens isn't really what he is anymore. But we see him in good fights sometimes. I mean, the Dennis Bermudez fight in 2015 was fantastic, of course. I think, though, Choi is better, though, at a distance on the feet. I think he's a bit more technical. He's usually better with his longer punches, the jab, things like that. I think Stevens is going to have to get in his face to succeed and do good on the feet. The problem with that is that Choi is so tough. We saw that against Cub Swanson, where you can't put Do Ho Choi away. You gotta. I don't know what you have to do to knock him out cold. I guess you'd have to choke him out or something. The guy has a chin for days, and it's really incredible because you look at him and he's so deceiving as a fighter in general. I mean, the guy looks like a little kid. He looked younger than me, yet he is one of the most ferocious featherweights on the planet. And that's one of the reasons I love Do Ho Choi as a fighter. I mean, he's such a fun fighter to watch, and he seems like he has good personality as well. But it's going to be a tough one. He seems to fade ever so slightly. Like he'll have the best chance to win in the first round and second, but he won't fade enough for Stevens to be able to take over so much to stop him. I think Choi has good enough cardio. I think the 4th round, 5th round might be a little tough, but I think he'll be able to do enough early on to get the job done over the course of 25 minutes. I think this does go to the judges. I know some people are picking either fighter by a stoppage. Both guys have great chins. Stevens has only been stopped once in his career. That was Steve Edwards. And once out of 30 fights, that's not too bad. Out of 14 losses, not too bad at all. Do Ho Choi, I would assume his first loss wasn't a stoppage. If it is, then he's been stopped before. If he hasn't, then he hasn't. I don't know what that loss was off the top of my head. There you go. So the fight of the year last year to Cub Swanson and some split decision early on. So yeah, it's going to be a fun one. It's going to be really fun. I think it's going to be a back and forth. I think this probably will be one of the better fights on the card, if not the best fight on the card. And I'm going to go Do Ho Choi by 48-47 unanimous decision.
This is hard. If this is a 3-round fight, I'm definitely taking Do Ho Choi. The fact that it's 5 and that he does seem to fade a little bit gives me a lot of pause here. I think you nailed it with a lot of your talk here. I think Jeremy Stevens underrated. People seem to think he's a big power punching brawler. He hasn't been that for a while now. Things kind of hanging me up here. A couple of things. Choi is so young. He has the potential to go much further. He was beating up Cub Swanson until he wasn't beating him up, and Cub Swanson convincingly beat Jeremy Stevens. Stevens seems to be a pretty established gatekeeper. He's gonna lose to the guys he's supposed to lose to, beat the guys he's supposed to beat. And that's like he's not a big time pay like guy who's gonna cash underdogs or whatever. He's really very middle of the road. And I think Duho Choi is certainly going to be a better fighter in like 2 years. I would 100% pick Duho Choi. 5 rounds though is really, really troubling for me because he is a guy who has been able to get people out of there so efficiently, so quickly with his power. And like you said, Jeremy Stephens, a real, real tough bird. Because of that, because it's 5 rounds, I may end up regretting this, and I won't be surprised if I do. I'm going to take Jeremy Stephens. I think you're right. I don't think either guy's getting a stoppage here. I think Duho Choi is going to win the first 2 rounds. He's going to start to slow down a little bit. We saw Jeremy Stephens' leg kick game really come into effect, like you mentioned in the Gilbert Melendez fight. I think we see some of that here. Troy's going to have to put a lot of wood to Jeremy Stephens early. He can do it, and I think he can stop Jeremy Stephens if he goes for it and can get there. I just don't think he will, and I think Stephens is going to outpoint him down the stretch as he's a little more prepared for these 5-round battles. He's a little more veteran of a fighter. I already feel sick about making this pick because I bet Duho Choi just comes in and kills him. But give me Jeremy Stephens with a 48-47 unanimous decision.
All right. Well, that is it for our picks for the card. Now let's move on to our bonuses and our underdog pick of the week. Why don't you go first? We, of course, do not have Wesley Riddles. He is busy, and we have a message out to him. I think you sent him one, but no response.
I didn't think he'd get it in time, so
no,
I'll keep that in our records, and we can talk about it next week. But yeah, bonuses. So fight of the night. I'm taking the main event here. Duho Choi, Jeremy Stephens. We both think it's going 5 rounds. If it goes 5 rounds, I'll be pretty surprised if it's not fight of the night. It would have to be something really impressive from one of the other fights on the undercard to topple that, especially because, I mean, shit, look, one of the many people's fight of the year for 2016 was Duho Choi, Cub Swanson. It was not mine, but many people's pick for that. Jeremy Stephens. I feel like Jeremy Stephens has had a bunch of fight of the nights in his year. Yeah, like 1, 2. I'm counting them down. 3, 4. Looks like he's got 4 fight of the night bonuses over the course of his career in the UFC. So maybe even 5. I can't tell. Like he's a guy who's been in barn burners. So this is clearly fight of the night performance. As far as my performance bonuses go, I feel like Uriah Hall is just going to knock out Vitor Belfort, but I don't think that's going to be impressive. I think it might be like Belfort falls over and Uriah Hall pounds him out, so that's not going to be super interesting. I'm trying to look for what stoppages am I predicting on this damn card. I'm not predicting freaking any of them. Like I've got so many decisions predicted on this card. James Krause, Marco Polo Reyes. I don't know. Do you have yours?
I have 3.
Do you have your bonus picks? Because I don't have any right now.
Probably. So fight night, I'm going Stephens Choi.
Yep.
Performances, probably Uriah Hall, but I hate to pick him just because he's so inconsistent. And so if this is a 3-round nothing fight, then I'll regret it. Let's see it, but I'm not really confident in. I'll go Uriah Hall and Matt Frivola.
Okay. I'm gonna go for performance. I forgot I did pick Michael Johnson to get a stoppage over Darren Elkins late, so I'll stick with that and say yes. And you know what? I'm gonna go with Jessica Rose Clark over Paige Van Zandt. Like I said, I think this fight's very close and probably goes to a decision, but I can see Paige Van Zandt doing something a little overly aggressive, going for a head and arm choke, giving up her back and getting choked out once again. So give me Jessica Rose Clark to announce herself in the flyweight division. My underdog pick, if you were keeping score at home, I have 4 underdog picks. I have Jeremy Stephens, Thiago Alves, Faria, and Taylor. Who is the biggest of those underdogs? Stephens is a 140. Alves is a 170. And Faria and Taylor are close. So Alves is the biggest underdog on my team, but I'm going to go with the main event. I'm going to take Jeremy Stephens as my underdog pick. Actually, I'm not, because I don't even feel super confident that he's going to get it done. Do I want to just take Thiago Alves? I'm gonna take Faria. Sure, let's do Faria.
Okay, good, because I'm going to take Thiago Alves for my underdog pick of
Yeah,
the
I
week.
figured you probably would.
The other ones would be Daniel Taylor, and I guess Ferry is even money.
You
So
also have PVZ, who's an underdog. So
yeah, slightly. Technically, according to UFC.com, and their odds aren't always completely up to date, but according to UFC.com, Ferry is not even an underdog.
I mean, it depends on what book you get at. Faria
Well, are you
is.
looking at 5 dimes? Because that's
I'm
typically.
I'm looking at all of the odds everywhere.
Oh, okay.
I'm
So
looking at
Ferry is an
all of the
underdog.
list. Faria is a even money at 5 dimes. She's Jessica. I and Faria are even at several places. Faria is the underdog in a majority of places where they're not even. Faria is the underdog. So
We'll
razor
give
close
it to
fight.
you. We'll give it to you.
Fine. You don't want it. I didn't want to be locked into to Jeremy Stevens for
No.
both.
Go Ferry. Go Ferry.
No, no, I'm not doing it. I refuse to. I'm
Fine.
going Jeremy Stevens.
Okay. You're gonna regret it, my friend.
I'm gonna live my best life, sir.
All right. DraftKings, and that's it, right?
Yeah. Why don't you lead us off with your team? Because I've got 2 open slots and I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing with them.
All right. Okay, so my DraftKings team, and not sold on it, but there's a number of big favorites on this card. DraftKings particularly. I'm not picking too many underdogs. And basically the thing is the underdogs I am picking, like Thiago Alves is on my team. I'm quite confident in him, and I think he actually racks up a number of points. But like the other underdogs, Daniel Taylor, I think that'll be a kind of bad fight. I'm not picking her on my team. And then I guess Feria, who knows? And that's about it. So my other members, the rest of my squad is going to be a couple of big favorites: Duho Choi and Kamaru Usman. We have Kang on it, Kyun Ho Kang.
So you've got Choi and Usman.
Choi, Usman, Kang, Alves.
Okay.
And then rounding out with Paige Van Zandt and Marco Polo Reyes. The one fighter on my team that I'm not picking is, of course, Polo Reyes. But I think it sort of cancels. It's kind of weird because I'm picking Frivola to get a performance of the night bonus, and I have Reyes on my DraftKings team. But basically, my reasoning here is that I think Polo Reyes, just because he's a scrappy fighter, he comes and brawls. He has more of a knockout chance than a lot of fighters, and so I think he'll probably get the job done. I'm trying to think because Kang is a big favorite, and if I take him out instead, and I think he'll actually grapple though. So it seems like we've been burned so often with guys getting like 200 points or whatever. Like I remember there's a beat Magomed Sharapov one. That's one we were kind of weird with. So I'm gonna go Kang. I'm gonna stick with that, but who knows how it change. What do you got though? Do you got something done?
I do. I don't know if I'm going to stick with it because I might end up making one change here. The crux of my lineup is going to be Kamaru Usman, Jeremy Stevens, Uriah Hall, Thiago Alves. Those 4 are going to stay. Uriah Hall is going to get a stoppage. We both talked about Thiago Alves. We talked about Kamaru Usman. I think he's going to wrestle his way to a ton of points. And then I'm taking I think you always put your main event fighter in your team. Doesn't matter. I'm taking Jeremy Stevens in that. And we both think it's going to a decision. So even if he loses, I think he still gets a decent set of points there. 5 rounds of a striking contest. I think he's got a good chance to get some points. And he's dirt cheap at 7,700 in that context. Currently, what I'm submitting right now is Jessica Rose Clark. She's one of my performance bonus winners. I don't feel good about it. But if she does get a stoppage, she's going to get a lot of points. I think that's on the table. Though her previous fight, she put up 104 points, and she's only $8,200. And then Danielle Taylor, we're both taking her. She's an underdog. I don't like having her on my team because even with the win, it's likely not going to be more than 50 points, maybe 60 points total. Just because she doesn't score a lot of points in any of the way this goes. So I'm going to try and remess with some things. Maybe slide James Krause in, pull Danielle Taylor out, and then pull Jessica Rose Clark for something else out. But currently, that's my lineup.
Alrighty, well that is it. Episode 95 of Before the Battle, UFC St. Louis edition is in the books. Thank you all for watching. If anybody is still watching, we do appreciate it. Give this video a thumbs up down there. We would definitely appreciate it. Give us a comment, any feedback, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. We would definitely appreciate that. I would appreciate it more than Jed because it affects me more than him. But nonetheless, please do so. Jed, let everybody know where they can find you on social media, where they can find all of your MMA coverage, and anything else you got to plug.
You can find me on social media on the Twitter machine at Jed K. Meshew. You can find my writing every single day at MMAfighting.com. I deal the morning report Monday through Friday. Also, this past week, started a new project with Alexander Lee called Missed Fists. We look over the previous weekend's less notable fights that are worth watching. So never UFC stuff, just if LFA's got a card or any of the kind of like random stuff that only the super hardcores get into watching like we do, then you can catch up without having to actually spend your sad weekends watching random bullshit ass cards in the middle of Russia. So check that out as well. Also, this year, the return of my gambling column for MMAfighting.com, it's coming back in a new and different form. But it's coming back nonetheless. I'll be submitting it Friday, so it'll probably be up Saturday for this Fight Night event. So check that out as well. And yeah, it was fun, even without Wesley Riddle, the coward, who never shows up to give me my props. It was still a fun time with you, Nicholas.
Yes, it was. You guys can find me on the Twitter at Nick Baldwin MMA. You can find all of my writing over at bloodyelbow.com. That's bloodyelbow.com. Go check it out. You can find my other podcast, The MMA Circus. I host it sometimes with Andrew Lawrence. Past couple weeks, hasn't been with him last week. Actually, this past weekend, because since I was away on vacation last week, we bumped last Tuesday's show, not this Tuesday, but last Tuesday's, to last Saturday. And so we did a couple shows, a couple days close together. So we did 144 with you. We did our predictions for 2018 and our awards for 2017, some unique stuff, best beard in MMA, commentator, things along those lines. A bit of a fun show. So go check that out if you haven't listened. And also our show with guest co-host Mookie Alexander of Bloody Elbow. We recorded that last night. We talked about this card, just the main card, and we also talked about Big John McCarthy heading over to Bellator as their newest broadcast addition as color commentator. Another fun show. Great having Mookie on. And the fact that he said some not super nice things about you, Jed, that makes it all the better.
I know. Listen, he's a coward. He won't even show his face. So what do I care?
He said he didn't have a webcam, but
yeah, he's a coward.
Believe it? I don't know. Okay, so that is it. Thank you all for watching.
It's also not quite it. Before we go, I'll let you walk it out. I changed my team. The 4 I told you were there. My team is now finished with James Krause and Paige Van Zant. So even though I'm picking Jessica Rose Clark to get a stoppage, I put PVZ on my team because reasons. So that's my squad.
So you switched out Rose Clark and Taylor for Krause and Van Zant.
Yeah, because Van Zant was the only person who could really make the money work there. So I'm taking her because I don't want Danielle Taylor on my team, basically.
And that's slightly unfortunate for me, just because now we're both going Van Zant, and I mean,
we're both going Usman, Alves, Van Zant. So it's you're going Choi, Kang, Reyes versus Stevens, Hall, Krause. It's not a bad head-to-head.
No, that's actually a good one.
Hall's putting up points. So is Kang. Stevens, Choi is it's a coin flip sort of, and then Reyes, Krause is it's not bad. We'll see how it goes. It'll be a fun shakedown.
It will. Okay, that is it. Also check out Beyond Combat. One last plug. Episode 6 tomorrow night with Flying Brian Jeffries of MMA Mania. We're going to be talking about his love and passion for craft beer. What better than an underage kid talking to someone about alcoholic beverages? Are
you underage in Canada?
I am. Canada's 18.
Canada had an age. What?
Canada's 18.
Well, that makes sense. Good for you guys. You don't have MLK Day, but you do have an 18-year-old drinking. So cheers.
So close. So close. Half a year to go. All right, you guys. What's that?
Almost there.
Almost there. You guys, although since assuming if I get accepted to university in Toronto, they're actually 19. So I'll turn 18 and like a month later be headed to somewhere where it's still a year. But oh well. You guys all have a good night. We appreciate you tuning in, and enjoy the fights on Saturday night.
Love you guys.
Sunday night. Don't tune in Saturday.
Love you guys.